and the goal is to bring you your next favorite band.
Thanks for having us. This is a very cool show.
Yeah, so through many iterations, and we finally landed on the weirdest one by far.
Yeah, simple of feelings, and boom, you got a sound.
Yeah.
I remember this one time. I had been writing some songs, and I went out. I'm just going right in on this story. I went out, and so I was.
The story's longer than the song itself. We'll go ahead and play it.
And listen, it's going to be everybody's favorite band. Welcome to your next favorite band. That's both the show title and our promise to you. We here at Stereophilia Studio are tireless in our pursuit of finding incredible, genre-defiant artists who are either a hot, up-and-coming band or a group that has been delivering for years but have flown under the radar. Tonight, some year-end Knucklehead Banter with Phillip and David. Each month, we will bring you live streams, audio podcasts, and perhaps even a live concert where you can listen to the stories and hear the music of artists personally curated by us based on what we feel will be worthy of your time. Be sure to subscribe and tune in to each episode because the possibilities are endless and you never know who will be your next favorite band. Hello, everybody! I am your host, Philip Reese.
Hello, I am David Moore, and I am your co-host.
And this is
Your Next Favorite Band.
You know it. Yet another Tuesday, and we are keeping up with things here.
I just realized something when you mentioned this during the introduction. Is it Phillip and David, the two Canadian weird guys from South Park?
I think you're right. It is definitely Phillip. I know that
Right.
because I loved it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was. We'll have to verify that information. We're probably definitely wrong on that.
There's definitely a bunch of people out there going, "No, you fool!"
Oh God, yeah. There's so many. I'm wrong 99% of the time. I accept that right on face value.
Well, and I was even going to ask this: is this week called something? This between the end of the holidays and not quite yet New Year's. It's like the Nether or something like that.
You'll have fairy. Yeah, I do like that the British use, there's a one word for Christmas time. It's not two words, it's all together. And I do like that. Now, granted, I understand why they also roll into it so hard because we have Thanksgiving, we have and then we have Halloween. These are things that land or in at least the fall for the United States. They're searing straight through, and they're like, we're definitely into these Victorian hats all over again.
Right. We own them. They're heavy as crap, and we're going to wear them.
Where's my wool scarf?
Correct, Dickensian. But the week feels weird. Not as much going on at work. Not as everyone's got that kind of oh, Christmas happened or Hanukkah happened. It's this kind of you almost wish there was less. These 5 days just feel like they should have a name.
Yeah, they should. Well, I think they call them Tuesday, Wednesday. No,
right.
Fair. Yeah,
fair.
The only people I know the only people I know right now that are busy are people that work in finances that have to do end of the year stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, this is when everyone waits for that last minute for some sort of important tax-based document that has to exist.
Yes, true. And I you could almost embrace it. I remember being a silly, probably college age kid going, "What if you just made every month 30 days?
Oh,
times 13."
Oh, I've got an even better solution for you.
And then you had 5 left over, and each one of those could have a purpose. One could be Thanksgiving, one could be
here you go.
The forgiveness or atonement, whatever. It could really start to embrace a bunch of. Go ahead, you got it.
We'll go with it. 365. This equals exactly 365.
Yes.
12 months, 30 days each.
That's the way I said 13.
Okay. All the days of the week are the same.
Damn smart.
That leaves you with 5 days left.
Yeah.
So we want to make them not religious and not country situations. So we end up with the spring and fall equinox. Those are both one of the days. The summer solstice and the winter solstice. That gets you to 364. New Year's Day, there's your 5th one. Done.
Right. I guess I was smashing them all at the end.
I'm putting all of mine spattered throughout the year, and they even lose the day of the week. The spring equinox is, so if it is a don't know, falls after a Wednesday and before a Thursday. It literally is without a
Yeah.
day of the week, and
I
it's
gotcha.
boom.
See, I was going with even 3 10-day weeks.
Oh yeah, I mean,
so that it's 30 days, 3 10-day weeks. I
Yeah.
mean, this would blow up like
That's-
basically civilization in corporate America. But 3, and then the last
think-
5 are just all everyone's off, and each day is spent towards something. And it could even religions could lean into these days, like we just talked about, or countries, or all
Right.
of the above, and they can give it their own name or what have you. But there would be a day that's dedicated to something that makes you kind of reflective and
Yeah, that
whatnot.
sounds-
and then you have a big old party on the last one, and you fire the whole
That
bad boy
sounds
back
good.
up again.
I just worry that in the United States, somebody would still have to work on those days.
Yeah.
And I don't mean somebody that does things that are like important, like a firefighter or a doctor.
Correct.
I mean,
No, I
it's
got you
a
there.
schmuck that makes, $6 an hour,
Yes.
working somewhere behind a counter.
And again, someone out there is going, "You idiots! That's so stupid."
Oh, I mean, that's why
it's
it says
Terrence.
knucklehead
It's
banter.
Phillip and Terrence.
Terrence. See,
Yeah.
not even close to David.
Change your name.
Yeah, so hold on, let me just edit that lower third
Terrence
there
Moore.
for a second.
Isn't that somebody? Anyway.
Should be.
So anyway, there, a little knucklehead banter. So even if if you're listening, know that we are complete fools. Wanted to first of all express like amazing. Let's talk about gratitude. Right after Thanksgiving, we did our Winter Wonder Jam episode, and just have so many people to be thankful for to pull off what was pretty much a nearly flawless evening as far as the technical side of things. There was a few things here and there, but in the aggregate,
Yeah,
worked swimmingly, having almost nothing to do with, certainly not me, a little bit thanks to you, but mostly to Mike Duck, who just was
Mike Duck helped out with the sort of crazy round robin audio setup
just
that
a
we had to
wizard
have
when
there.
it came to sound engineering and
Yeah.
levels and avoiding anything that could lead to either an echo or a delay or anything. So huge thanks to Mike Duck. His company, Webfoot Digital, kind of sponsored that episode a little in the fact that he was really, highly committed to making sure that it was where it needed to be for Godfrey Daniels, and then we kind of certainly kind of made the rode the coattails of that because we really benefited from it. So thank you to Webfoot and thank you to Mike Duck. And then the other thing that we learned through that whole time frame is he's in a band as well called Not for Coltrane. And when we learned and took some research into what he does with that, it's fascinating, and he's going to come on for an episode because it seems like it's pretty fascinating.
It hopefully should be the best sounding episode with everything we just led up to that with.
Yes, that will definitely be important to have it sound good, but that'll be a very, very cool episode to dive into a little bit more about him, his background, and then also mostly Not for Coltrane, and kind of have him play live on the show because that's kind of what he does for his own broadcast. So that'll be very cool, and that'll be an interactive one. We'll have to make sure that one has some good chat functionality going on. And obviously, thank you to Godfrey Daniels and Ramona Labar for letting us kind of broadcast from there and have some live in-person performers. Thank you to New Bethany Ministries for what they do and for kind of being there to kind of help us promote what they're offering the community and kind of promote them, obviously, for the philanthropy efforts. We were able to raise $665 that night for New Bethany. So we had just picked the goal of supporting a client for a year. They have that kind of budgeted out, if you will, at $1,020. So it was a lofty goal. I'm not going to, feel bad about where we landed. I think it's a pretty good one. It's just kind of helping us set a goal for next year to kind of get there, or at least beat this year's number at a minimum. And that'll be fun. That'll be fun each year to try and do that.
Yeah, I think now that we also have an idea on both the combination of what goal we would like to have and knowing how we have to execute the show and all those there's a million moving parts, that go into making the whole thing happen. I think that will help, and we can shoot higher next year, and then we'll keep going up from there. And then eventually everyone will get tote bags. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Some swag. I should say we've left the code active, so I think we even still have it here. Yep, you can text Next Fave Band to 41444, and that will still take you right to their donation page. So there is still time to up our number and see what we can get to. But I think it was a pretty successful night from that front already.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then lastly, thank you to all the performers. I mean, we had 10 recordings, and we had 5 live, combination of virtual and in person. And just can't thank them all enough for their talent and their energy and their commitment to be there. I mean, it was especially like the 2 people who were there in person were there for a good bit of time before they even hit the stage, and they did not, they were feeling the spirit and they were enjoying watching the other performers and the people who were there. We had a small in-person audience, so they were having a good time, but I still felt like there was definitely more that we could have taken advantage of with them and all their whole repertoire, what they could have been doing.
Yeah, it's they were great. It was great to have live performers in the room.
Yeah.
As much as the folks that did great pre-recorded stuff because of what their availability or what they were able to do, and even the folks that joined us live virtually, all of that was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But having live performers in the room is always great.
Yeah,
and it's great.
So they actually each played. So it was Bobby Siegfried from Chasing Daylight and Emily Drinker. They both played 3 songs, one of which was an original piece. And so they actually were some of the most touching moments, or special moments of the evening. And so when we did the edited version of the Winter Wonder Jam, we focused on the holiday music. But I just thought those 2 songs were so amazing that I kind of wanted to feature them again here, so that we can kind of share them with everyone who's listening here today. And then they're both going to be on the show in the future. We'll get to that in a second. But for here now, first enjoy. Here's Bobby Siegfried. And he does a nice intro of his song here before he starts playing, and then we'll come back on and talk about it.
So I keep going for you?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't planning on doing this song today, but this is an original song, and I was really moved by the work of New Bethany is pretty incredible. So if you haven't donated yet, and those watching on, if there's the camera online, please donate to the incredible work that they do. It's a good reminder that the holidays, so many of us have so much to be thankful for, but there's still so many that need help, that need someone to be their advocate this time of year. And this song is not specifically about being destitute in the sense of financially or whatever. It's of course a pathetic love song, because those are what I write, but the general idea is it's okay to sometimes just not be okay and just not know what tomorrow may bring. So that's what this is. It's called I Don't Know. Do you ever feel so right you're scared you're wrong? In a crowded room, you're afraid that you're still lost. If it all comes down, you swear it's 'cause you're broken. The only one, so he's somehow out of reach. Have you ever met someone you'd steal the moon for? Yet all the love you have won't be enough. Ever met someone you'd give it all to hold on to? These dreams come true for everyone else but you. 'Cause every time you get close, it seems so far, you doubt your heart. It's time to just be sure they feel it too. Well, I see you, I feel you, I've been in this song before, and I wish that I knew that it all makes sense in the end, but I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. This time of year feels so long ways. days grow short, the daylight far away. When it all comes down, you feel it's 'cause you're broken. No one could really love you like a dream. 'Cause every time you get close, it seems so far. You doubt your heart, dying to just be sure they feel it too. But I see you, I feel you, I've been in this song before. And I wish that I knew that it all makes sense in the end. But I don't know, I just don't know. I don't know. When you think you find it, you feel like you're losing your mind. Don't know how they see you the way they do with their eyes. Don't know when you've ever prayed for anything more, but you're scared tonight. You're scared tonight. Well, I see you, I feel you, I've been in this song before. And I wish that I knew that it all makes sense in the end. But I don't know, I just don't know. I don't know, does anybody know? There's always hope.
So that's stunning. That it really was a special moment, and it just captured those things. It gives me chills still listening back to it today. But thank you to Bobby Siegfried from Chasing Daylight, and can't wait to dive in more with his music and his story, and when we bring him on a future episode, we're still looking at dates on that one. But anyway, thought it was an amazing song.
Yeah, I mean, it's what did he call it? A sappy love song, but it's quite lovely. There's a sincerity.
Totally, yeah. And so we have the other song here is the original from Emily Drinker, and it's kind of the opposite end of that. It's more of an upbeat kind of it's actually called Something's Coming, and it's a kind of just generates this something good's about to happen. So here's Emily's Drinker and her original performance.
We were talking about game time decisions and not doing something you didn't think you were going to do, but it's not a Christmas song. I hope that's okay. But as you were saying earlier, for anyone who's sick of Christmas music, I figured since I did make the trek tonight, I just want to play one of my original songs for you. I don't have any original Christmas music. Actually, that's not true. A song I wrote with a couple friends in Philly is coming out, I guess, hopefully next week or something. Hopefully in time for the holiday. But and then a Christmas EP that I sang on with some people from Philly is also just came out the other day. But I didn't write any of the stuff. But yeah, this is a not holiday song at all. But this is just an original song that I just recorded recently with my band, and we're going to release it in the new year. So this is a song about writing songs called Something's Coming. I should have known it. I drank that coffee too late, waiting for the moment when I can let those floodgates break open. I've been waiting patiently. You Gotta make that space for creativity. Let yourself be bored, girl, in order to feel free. You gotta sit alone in your bedroom, mumble a new melody. Oh, 'cause something's coming, you know, for a while. You gotta stick with it, don't give in to feeling tired. Something's coming. Something's coming. Can you feel it? Everything is changing. The world is feeling different. The pieces are rearranging. You gotta trust what's unfolding. Wait for the moment. Oh, 'cause something's coming, you know, for a while. You gotta stick with it, don't give in to feeling tired. No, no, something's coming. Something's coming. I should've known it, I drank that coffee too late. Oh, 'cause something's coming, you know, for a while. You gotta stick with it, don't give in till feeling tired. Something's coming. Something's coming. Oh, 'cause something's coming, you know, for a while. You gotta stick with it, don't give in to feeling tired. No, no, something's coming. Something's coming, coming. Thanks so much. Thank you, guys.
So there's Emily Drinker giving us Something's Coming. Just thought it was such a cool song. It was almost like coming from the point of view of either a muse or whatever, just inspiring people to
Over caffeinated bliss.
There certainly was that part too.
Yeah.
But yeah. So the cool part there is she is scheduled. So if we take a peek into January, we have some really cool guests. The first one next week is going to be a band called Terrible Orange Things, which I think was probably best band name of Music Fest this last year. I really wanted a T-shirt, but they didn't have nothing at the merch table. So, but I also it's exactly kind of the opposite of what you'd think. They were there all in black, but I think that kind of then became one of the cool parts. So next week, next Tuesday is Terrible Orange Things. Week afterward, Emily Drinker. So
that's January 3rd and January 10th. Is that correct on the dates?
That sounds correct. Yes.
Just want to double check because you're saying next, and unfortunately, the point of reference might get lost on me particularly.
And especially when no one listens to it this week, they're going to be like, "Wow."
Yeah.
So yeah, let's use actual dates. So yeah, January 3rd will be Terrible Orange Things. 10th, Emily Drinker. The following week, I'm going to be on my honeymoon. I get married on the 14th. So that week, we're going to
finally get to take over the show. No, the power is unleashed.
Yes, and you can absolutely do that. What I am going to serve up with if you want to be on for it or just we hit play, is going to be we're going through like episode by episode, just pulling out best of moments, and that's from June to December because that was our first episodes ever. Where Mike Maines and the Branches and Bright Dog Red in June was the first ones.
Your next favorite band favorites.
Correct. Yeah, your new favorite moments. But we just thought that would be something good to even just do each year, just to have kind of like a retrospective. We're still in the process of doing the edits, so it could be a two-parter. So it could be like a Tuesday, Wednesday kind of release, and then a Thursday, Friday for the podcast. and that's the week of the 17th is Tuesday. So something will go out on the 17th, and there may be an extra version of it, or it may just be extra long. We're not sure. And then on Thursday, and that such is of the week each time. That's where the podcast episode comes out. After that, we tentatively have Shamar Allen scheduled. So he picked that date. He just needed to confirm that was this week that we were hearing from him.
The 24th.
You're looking
right?
at the 24th, yes?
That would be the 24th, yes. January 24th.
Yes. And then the following one is the 31st of January. So we actually get 5 episodes in January. And that one's a very cool one. We actually have booked a developer of Apple applications, like an iOS app. His name is Marcos Tanaka. And he builds apps that are dedicated to the music industry, and it'll search your phone and give you.
Yeah, they do some neat things. We'll talk to him about the specifics, but it's things such as, lyric finding. It finds liner notes, all sorts of stuff like that sort of gives you part of the tactile response that's missing from digital music, and it fills in some of those holes along with other things. But that for me is, for example, one of the things that I always miss from digital music is those fun facts and things like that.
Yeah, and I think too, like he has not just one, like he has like 4 or 5. He has more than that non-music related, but he has like a bunch that are dedicated to music, and so it'll be neat to go into the nuances of each one and see, which ones might be meaningful to people, because I think that's what this is all about. Again, it's about music discovery. So if there's any way that we can be helping with that, this is another way to do that. So I think that'll be a cool one. Each month, like we've talked about, we're going to try and bring on people who are music adjacent.
Right.
So that's January, and then February is pretty well booked, and we even have some heading into March. So we'll leave those be unspoken as of now. But
we're waiting for the ink to dry on these. God, the number of pages in these contracts is just absurd.
Yes, and so we thought maybe it would be neat for just you and I to pick one or two of our favorite moments of the year. That some of it is just reflective, some of it is as we've been going through the edits. It just jumps out at just how many special moments there have been. And by no means, as you heard during the Winter Wonder Jam, they're all my favorite. These aren't necessarily head and shoulders above anything else. It's just like they were just some ones that were just kind of fun to pull out, and to kind of share. So I'll go first, just because it's the oldest one.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, in July we interviewed, and again, I still pinch myself that we had this opportunity. The Arcadian Wild. Yeah, they were performing on the Levitt stage as part of the summer series this past year, and so when that happened, we reached out to their kind of management, and they said, yeah, they'd love to do it. So I was like, amazing, and so we had them on, and not only so I was starstruck, I believe you might have been as well,
just a little bit,
but they were so down to earth, so humble, so just easy to talk to that very quickly it just turned into 4 people talking about music and the history of the band and all that kind of stuff. And there's this one moment that I kind of slivered out here, where it's actually very funny. They have one song on their very first album that has a ton of views, and it's kind of music that doesn't really sound like the Arcadian Wild typical music sound. So anyway, here's a little clip from that. There's a track on that one. The song "Her" is on that album, right?
Yeah.
And so when I go into Spotify, it has 27 million streams. There's got to be a story there.
No story. I think the public just loves instrumental, mediocre instrumental piano songs.
Now, don't undercut
That's
yourself.
what they want.
It is a waltz. So I mean, like
a waltz.
It's like a 3/4 or something like that. I mean, it's got something interesting happening with it. So I think it's a beautiful piece.
Thank you.
So there was no I was waiting for like Barack Obama used it in a speech, like I don't like something like
that would have been amazing. I wish. No, and I think whenever we release that album. Well, one, yeah, I mean, it's definitely if you listen to that album, it sort of sticks out as like, what is this? It just like why is this here? Whether or not it's
in the middle
nice
of this
or not.
album.
Exactly. Like, this was an interesting choice, and he just couldn't really play instrumental music as a band, but I think already at that point we felt that there needed to be some sort of like lift, just like a little like moment of levity, and so we threw that on there, and then it got picked up by Spotify as like it got put on this piano playlist, this peaceful piano playlist, and I think what happened was. And the playlist was followed by millions of people, and I think they just listened to it to study or to fall asleep. So I bet what happened is somebody would put the playlist on, and overnight while they fell asleep, it would play through 50 times or whatever, and enough people did that we looked up. I remember actually getting like waking up and having a text from Vion, the guy that produced that album. That said something like hers got 40,000 streams last night, and I was just at that point I was like, "What? That is can't even imagine that number. That's insane."
So it goes on from there. It's very funny and just again very very nice to have them on the show and to kind of reflect on that. They get into some other very cool topics.
Yeah, we talk about some of their songs specifically.
Yep.
Like so that you can dig in on some of the thoughts and process behind some of the pieces that you and I ask about in that conversation. We could have asked about 24 more.
For sure.
We're going to go through the entire catalog and just ask you what your thought process was.
And with the typical kind of arc of our kind of diving into their story, it starts from their history, goes through the earlier albums, changes in band members, where they are today, some of the recent music they've released, obviously. And then again, like
more
like you
songs
were just
since that interview. So,
that's true.
Definitely make sure you're keeping abreast of them.
Totally. Yeah, they do. And they said they have more music coming out in the springtime. So big, huge fans of the Arcadian Wild and so thankful that they came on the show. But what was the top moment you wanted to share?
So we'll jump, since we're on the sort of lighter ones, I'll do my sort of lighter one in this whole thing. So we had on March 4th. March 4th is a band that sort of is composed of a bunch of instrumentation that sort of resembles in some form a marching band, but has a sort of a groove background to it. But they also have performers in the band that are acrobats and dancers and fire eaters if they're in a big enough space and all that kind of stuff. And we got into all of that. But when you mention that kind of thing, that also means there's a whole lot of people. And when I was discussing this with Phil, I used the term when we Brady bunched with the March 4th. And so that was the clip that stands out to me. There was a point, what happened through the whole interview because of the number of people and the times and all that kind of stuff. But I sent him a clip that is at a moment where I think there's 8 people in the conversation at that point in time, and we're negotiating frame. There's a bit of chaos that is full of joy. Like we're all just laughing.
It's a beautiful, beautiful chaos.
Yeah.
So here is the clip from March 4th.
As zoomed in as I look on the closet.
You're very close.
Back it up a little. You got the biggest head to go, bro.
It was still early in the relationship. I wasn't going to bring that up, but
I appreciate that.
but at some point we were gonna have words. But yeah. Thank you all.
I mean, it's a short clip, but it was just intrinsic of the conversation we were having, which was, there's 8 people on that screen. We had more people on after that. We had some people that dropped out because of where they were located and all this other kind of things. But it is, believe it or not, energy speaking, was very similar to what the band's music is.
Absolutely.
There's so that to me was just, it's fun when those things line up.
Absolutely.
And plus that one, like you said, it was chaos, but it was joyful.
Yeah, and they are currently touring. They are, hungry for audience, as anyone would be. I guess I just mean, like, you could tell, like, they were wanting to get back to it, because when you have 15, we'll call it mouths to feed, that's the size of their band, whether it's band members or acrobats, and they're a family. Like, they are not going to suddenly go, sorry guys, we got to cut it down to 6. They want to do this and make it work for everyone. And so they did Burning Man recently and had a huge following there. And they are just out there in their Transformer bus. We talk about that in the interview, that they've got this bus that has, like, it moves and shakes and turns into different things. That's pretty amazing to learn about. But they can't feel comfortable coming past, like, the middle part of the country. So, like, it's a West Coast push that I'm trying to encourage people to say, hey, go see the band so that they can feel the support and start to get more stable so they can maybe come out this way.
Well, yeah, they talked about that. It's worth diving into that conversation because that part is we really did talk about the logistics of having to make a band is already complicated, but when you scale up to that many members, they talked about having the idea of having anchor shows on the East Coast to pull them out so that they can come out and then they can start dropping in shows on route or extend the route and things like that. And it's complicated, and it's really interesting to hear the working mechanics to go on behind all behind the scenes for all of that.
Absolutely, yeah. And also, I think it's their 20th anniversary, so I think venues and audience members should all be on board with going out there and celebrating. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. I actually planned a trip to Chicago for the whole purpose of me being able to see them perform. Like, I think they are that worth it. Like, that's how I admire and I'm in awe of everything that they pull off. I mean, a very, very entertaining show, worth the money, and then also, just gonna blow you away. It's definitely one of the coolest things you'll ever see.
Yeah.
What was your other one?
So now we're going to do the other side of the coin. We were lucky enough to have conversations with some of the musicians and acts that we had that dove a little bit more into maybe a personal or a more thought-provoking kind of space. We had, I'll mention one and then we'll go to the one that was a clip. So we had the Family Crest on, we had Liam McCormick, and we discussed, he wrote an article that we discussed about being biracial and representation in music. That was an interesting conversation. And this is in that same vein where we talked to Joe, I'm going to say his last name wrong again.
Makovecki.
See, I knew that's why you're here, Phil. And Joe Makovecki from Jackson Pines, we talked to him about an article that he wrote, specifically in this case about failure. And so this gets a little bit more, it's a little more thought-provoking, it's a little more humbling, versus the other ones, which are a bit more lighthearted. So this is his response to, after you and I were talking to him, you had read a passage from it. And then he's responding to that. So the passage was fundamentally about the idea of what is failure? What are the thoughts on failure?
And here's Joe.
That had been on my mind. I've been thinking about endlessly, like things you think about in the car on the way back to gigs. And things, when it's a good gig or not a particularly good gig or all that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, my dad was also a musician and he was a music teacher as well in a different way. He was a middle school band director who gigged on nights and weekends. And, I just saw a lot of a different example of what success could mean, I guess, and like never applied it to myself until one day you just kind of see it in a different way. And, do I think it's just, the things that look like failures or not, that's like the main point of it, I guess. And, again, if I could write a song to just one person, even if it's in my own hometown, it really means something to them. And that's the actual end goal, especially if I'm going to call myself a folk songwriter, because that's what folk music is songs for the people immediately around you until it got commercialized and became a great genre, which it is. But so many of the folk singers originally were just people that only played on their porch or in their backyard. So yeah, like the idea of the musician in that context is so different, but it's still entertainment at the end of the day. But thank you for bringing that up, because that kind of, even hearing it now, it hits me in a different way that maybe I need to reread that and tell myself that again.
Joe was an amazing interview.
He was articulate in a way when we asked questions that was really great to hear. Like there was always that pause where you could see him gathering his thoughts together before he would respond. And then he also unloaded New Jersey folk history on us. So you can see maps of it. He literally sent us maps afterwards that I added to the page for that on the website, on the nextfaithband.com website. You can go see those maps that he discusses, and it's really neat. It's very, very cool. It really did open my eyes. It was way beyond the big regional kind of thing. I mean, it literally broke into 3 different kinds of folk music that are in New Jersey.
Yeah, and just the sheer historical awareness he has, the articulate nature in which he shared it, like just right off the bat. It wasn't like we prepped for that. I didn't even know it was happening. Like I asked him a question and all of a sudden, boom, he just dropped knowledge on us, and it was so cool and so easy to listen to and makes you want to learn more. Like David says, like, it made me want to see them maps and maybe read about Alan Lomax, who
Yeah.
he was referencing regarding the person who did the research back in the 30s and the 40s that other people have kept going. So yeah, very, very cool. And he does perform live shortly after that passage, and he is an amazing performer, just as far as just his ability to wield a guitar. It's just yet again like all these people who perform, but like just it's just amazing to watch just someone who's so born to do it. It's just that's what I love. I will say too, one of the most enjoyable things that I've gotten out of this that I didn't expect was finding these little nuggets, like putting forth the research to find something to bring up in the interview that I don't want to say catches them off guard, but like because I'm not trying to catch them. Like I want them.
Well, I mean, in this case, it was on his website. It's not like, I mean, he put it there.
Yes.
Yeah,
and so like you mentioned, the Liam McCormick one was about racism in America and in particular in the music industry.
Yeah.
And then some were not sillier, but like the Fox Royale interview had the movie that he had scored music to. That was kind of like a horror comedy musical movie.
Yeah, in the same vein as like Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog that was done.
So like I just like when I can find some sort of little nuance or nugget like that to bring out. Initially, I just thought it was show prep, but I've now learned that how much this means to them as an interviewee, that they're like, wow, you took the time to do this. That's so cool. And then they talk about this thing that they're like, that never comes up in interviews. I now hope I find those little moments for them. Like I want them to like having come on the show and pull this little story out of them that maybe they kind of always want to talk about, but never comes up. And, and maybe the longer format of the interviews allows that to happen. But anyway, I really like those moments and look forward to maybe finding a few more of them.
Yeah. And we'll have to see what comes up. Maybe you'll pull out somebody who has a background that they were, we can talk to somebody extensively about their background working as a short order cook for forever. And they have this
longshoreman or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Some sort of like crazy wool, weaving habit, something. I don't know.
Well, I mean, actually, that came up. I didn't find it, but Trace Shibley from Argonaut and Wasp, who was on the show, he talked about that he used to work on one of the one summer he did one of those ones like Deadliest Catch type things.
Yeah,
and so it's like wow, like you didn't see that one coming. But
and he's got all 10 fingers, so it worked out for him.
It did. It sure did. But one last one here. One of the most current interviews we did was with cognitive neuroscientist and musician Daniel Levitin. And that one was another super fascinating one because of just how much he knows, all his research and whatnot, and just his sheer knowledge of what he's basically dedicated a career into. So that was fascinating to me. But I got the chance to ask the question that I always wanted to ask somebody who would know. In that, I always bring this up with a musician who creates them, of those what we deem a pure moment where time stops. Everyone pays attention, all that stuff. And I asked it, like, what's going on in the brain that may be causing that to happen? And here was some of that little banter back and forth. It starts with me. He asked us, when does it happen? Because I guess maybe he wanted a point of reference. So I kind of shared something, and then it gets into his answer. Yeah. I mean, I think it happens during like a Broadway show, very much by design, and you've got everybody seated in the same direction and watching. But I've also seen it happen at a local brewery with 50 people who didn't even come to see the artist. And suddenly everybody, all 50 people, are paying attention to this person. And it could be like a not well-known piece of music, something they've never heard before. And all of a sudden it just captures everybody's 100% of their attention. And I find that absolutely palpably impressive. And I always am looking, that's kind of what I'm most in the search for. It's like, yes, I'm looking for new music. Yes, I'm looking for new bands, but I'm also looking for those moments because I find them so unpredictable and so special.
Yeah, I would turn this around. Pardon me. We know from studies in my lab, and then other people have replicated it, that when people listen to music together, their brain waves literally synchronize.
Wow.
So I would turn it around. If that's happening, why does it happen more often? Why isn't it happening every time you listen to music?
Sure.
And so that's the puzzle to me. I think that part of it is that when I say brainwaves synchronize, it's along a continuum. What percentage of your brainwaves are synchronizing and which one? So maybe, but that's just kind of sweeping the question under the rug. It doesn't really answer it. The poet in me, the artist in me, likes to think that only happens when it's happening for the musicians too.
Sure.
And we somehow sense that the musicians have lost track of time and place, and they're really in the moment. And every note they play, they inhabit. And they're not thinking about what they just played, and they're not thinking about what they're going to play. And you get sucked into the vortex of that as a listener.
Yeah.
And as other people do, it spreads. It's a contagion, and a wonderful contagion. When I've experienced that as a musician, it's powerful, and you can understand from that. And I've experienced it playing with Victor, who's a bass player in Bela Fleck.
Sure. So I love and he continues to go on from there. What I really love is his ability to meld science and art in his answers. Like, he is definitely someone who can work both tracks there. And yeah, I mean, it's just it resonated with me, his answer, as to maybe a little bit more of an understanding as to why it does happen and maybe why it doesn't all the time. And not that you can do anything about it, but it was cool to hear somebody start to explain it as far as what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and his research is in the broad sense about music and the human brain and things like that. And he's, we discussed in that same interview, to go jump back into, literally the title of his book is Your Brain on Music.
You're right.
And so worth checking out, even just to hear some of the insights into that as well.
I still have it right here.
Look at that.
That's how recent the interview was, and since then it's been all about the Wonder Jam. So I haven't quite tidied up the fun station here.
The fun station.
Yes, it's not a workstation; it's a fun station. But I think those were extremely cool highlights. Thank you for picking some, David, and for letting me share some as well. There's more. I mean, like, if I could just actually, very quickly promote the website one more time. I have it up right here, and you can see, again, David did a wonderful job on this. It's kind of chronologically out there to be able to pull up. So if you wanted to learn more about the Dan Levitin episode, you pull that up, and right here is the audio from the podcast, the connection to the YouTube, the bio, some of the resources about what we referenced during the show, links to his stuff, and his music and so on. And then I just think this is laid out so nicely. So thank you again, David. But if you just keep scrolling down, there's the Trace Shibley one I was talking about. Here's Fox Royale that we were mentioning. My apologies. Sometimes the trackpad does what it wants to do. Here's Family Crest. We were talking about that one, March 4th.
Jackson Pines. The Family Crest is an example. Like, I link right to the article that that Liam wrote.
Oh,
and then
right.
Then we discussed as an example. Same with Jackson Pines, as an example of how we're trying to, make the resources a bit easier to.
That's this right here.
Yeah, make it a little easier for people to experience. And
then if you want to keep going backwards, there's the load more button, so that you can kind of bring up the ones that are a little bit more in the past there. So you can see Hotel Fiction, Darling Sons. We're going to share highlights from these other ones as well. Here's Arcadian Wild, Aubrey Haddard, and then all the way back to the beginning, Bright Dog Red, Mike Maines. And you can also come into the ones that are about the performances. This is and there's even a link over here for these. I find this to be really cool, that the people who performed for the show, on the show, what have you. We've put them in a all in one upload, so that you can maybe throw on your next favorite band concert, basically, of all these different performers. And then if you like something, you can kind of go learn more about them. And then, like we've always tried to promote, buying merch directly from them to support them, and buying tickets to their shows.
Yep.
Which is the most important way to support what we've got. If you like what they're doing, unfortunately, the streaming services do not generate the revenue that they need.
The streaming services aren't really a revenue device. They're sort of the new modern radio, where the sense is like your best bet is if you use the streaming services to follow them or to add them to your library.
Yep. Bandcamp's probably the best place to do it, especially on Bandcamp Fridays. But
Well,
that's
yeah,
still not anywhere near as powerful as buying a vinyl or a CD or a download code straight from the
Correct. All of that is absolutely the best way to support them fiscally. It does a lot of good things for them. It allows them they act as their own sort of record store in that case, or their own merch store. And so they're making as much as they possibly can on that. And then you're helping them be successful. And if they're successful, that means they're going to make more music, which is going to make you happy. And we see how this is a big feedback loop.
Yes.
And it all works out wonderfully in the end.
Absolutely. So can't wait to keep this train rolling. Like I feel like this was such a great year, but we've got great things in store for 2023. We've got these growing and building momentum with artists and with management and local venues. So I just think we're going to be, David and I come up with different ideas we banter about all the time. So we've got some other cool things kind of brewing. But at a minimum, we will see you each Tuesday at 6:30. And we're going to go with some different music here. David had this cool idea of a close like this. So thank you for tuning into this episode of Your Next Favorite Band. We just bantered today, talking about some year-end tidying of loose ends, and sharing with you our gratitude and thanks for pretty much, obviously, tuning in all this time, but also for the Winter Wonder Jam and all of the love and support and kind of encouragement we got through that whole thing. And then also, we also shared with you some of our favorite moments, because mid-January we'll be releasing a best of episode. So this is the end part here where we always like to say, if you have a recommendation for our next favorite band, please send that in. If you have any feedback for us on things you like about the show, would like to see different, please send that in. We're definitely wanting to hear from you all. If you could like and subscribe and follow us on either, whether it's YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, or again, on some of the different social medias like Twitter and Instagram, that's where you're going to be able to catch some other cool content when we go out to shows. But also it just, again, helps us, like we were just talking about. And if you could review us on podcasts or what have you, with a 5-star review, apparently that would be very helpful as well. And that's our way to be able to keep doing what we're doing and keep elevating the content and so on. If you are a musician and would like to be on the show, also reach out right on the website or on the social media direct messages. And lastly, if you're a sponsor, if you want to sponsor the show in some way, and you like what you're hearing and you want to be a part of it, that's another person that we would love to hear from. So any and all of those messages and feedbacks to us, flood us with them. Other than that, thank you to David for a great 6 months of the foundation of this show. Thank you to you all for listening. Can't wait for 2023, and let's see a live show together soon.